One time I got the cops called on me like right after I moved to Japan. So a lot of people asked me if I was going to Australia. I definitely want to have a home base. I'm getting a bit like traveled out recently. Oh, I've been wanting to address this. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Good morning from Hanoi, Vietnam. As you can see, the view is very pretty. Welcome to my hotel room in Hanoi, where I have been bedridden for 3 days because I have some sort of mysterious illness that I don't know what it is. It's giving flu. It's definitely giving flu, and I don't know what to do about it. So I've kind of just been raw dogging it and waiting for it to go away, and it's not going away. But the thing is, I'm literally supposed to go to my next country tomorrow. This is where I have been ordering every single meal of the day for 3 days. I'm staying at Hotel du Parc Hanoi. Hotel du Parc Hanoi, yeah. I did in fact get Starbucks yesterday, and I got it again today. They have pumpkin spice in Vietnam, but in Japan, pumpkin spice is different from pumpkin spice in America, but pumpkin spice in Vietnam is the same as pumpkin spice in America, so I like getting the pumpkin spice in Vietnam too because I like the pumpkin spice in America also. But the pumpkin spice in Japan isn't as good. But in lieu of me being sick, I cannot film. I cannot film anything. I was literally doing an entire vlog in Vietnam, but I cannot continue the vlog before I leave Vietnam, so that is now scrapped. In lieu of that, I'm gonna do what all the YouTubers used to do when they were sick for the week, and I'm doing a Q&A. I asked you guys a bunch of questions on Instagram, and a lot of you guys sent me questions, so let's get straight into it, shall we? I was literally gonna go on like an overnight cruise and film it today. Obviously that didn't happen because I feel absolutely horrible, which is scary because I'm in Vietnam. Like I literally don't know what to do in the case that I'm sick here. Luckily I'm not throwing up or anything. I'm congested, I'm really achy, I have fever, my head hurts, my eyes hurt, like literally everything. It's a mess. We keep moving. Okay, the first question is, was it hard traveling in South Korea? Do you know any Korean? Honestly, it was kind of hard, which I didn't really expect because I know Korea is similar to Japan in a lot of ways, but I found that it's also different in a lot of ways. Being in Korea reminded me of how hard it was to be in Japan before I knew any Japanese because I don't know any Korean. So doing simple tasks was like really hard. I had a day where like I was trying to find an ATM for like an hour and like asking around trying to find one, and I could not find one. I'm definitely able to get around Japan a lot easier. Regardless, I really enjoyed my time in Korea. I don't think the language barrier was anything that should stop people from going. It was fine. What's your favorite thing about Japan? My favorite thing about Japan, I feel like is a typical answer, but the convenience of everything. Traveling so much makes you realize a lot of things. Like I get very used to being in Japan, and so like the convenience of everything gets really normal to me. But as I travel and when I'm in Vietnam, I'm like, oh my god, like bitches have it good in Japan. Like the transportation, especially when I was in Korea, the transportation was so difficult to figure out versus Japan. Japan is so much more simple and easier to understand even if you don't know Japanese. And so yeah, I'd say the convenience is definitely my favorite part about Japan. Do you enjoy traveling alone? Yes and no. I think yes because I get really annoyed being with other people when I'm traveling because they want to do so much and I am way more like relaxed and like want to take breaks, and I don't want to be like constantly out and like sweating my ass off the entire day and like hiking mountains and shit. Like that's just not my vibe. When I'm with people like that, it doesn't really make the trip fun for me. So I really like having the independence and being able to make my own decisions while I'm traveling. On the other hand though, it does get really lonely sometimes, and being like a lazy traveler, I get very much like, what the fuck do I do? Nothing sounds appealing. So that can be hard because as someone who has like the privilege to do this so frequently and travel so much, I definitely get in phases while I'm traveling where I don't want to do anything. Like I just want to sit at home or in the hotel and do nothing, and I end up feeling really guilty about that. So having other people kind of pushes you to do more. Also, there's just a lot of activities that can be done with more than one person versus by yourself, especially in Korea. Like Korea, everything is for like 2 or more people. Like I found that going there as one person was really difficult. There's a lot of places, like say you want to go out to a restaurant in Japan, you can go by yourself. Like people eat out all the time alone in Japan. It's very normal. In Korea, that's like not normal. It's always 2 or more. How do you make recording in public less awkward? So I've gotten used to this like over time. When I first started doing social media, I was really nervous about like filming in public, and over time I've definitely gotten better at it. But I think it helps a lot
because a lot of the time I'm filming around people who don't necessarily know English. So it's a lot less nerve-wracking knowing that they don't really know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I think like, oh, I could just be like a tourist, like I'm just filming my trip, which is what people have done for like decades. No one really knows that I'm like a vlogger or do social media because they don't really know what I'm saying. So I definitely get more nervous around people who know English. Favorite clothing piece to wear and least favorite. So I've had this hat forever.
I don't know why I said I had that hat forever. I've literally had it for less than a year, but yeah.
And it is literally my favorite. I wore it in my last video. It's actually my favorite piece of clothing that I've like ever owned. Like it's literally just so cute. And I feel like it works really well with the length of my hair. But the least favorite item of clothing to wear, I'd probably say are these shoes, which you're probably like, what the fuck, Ryan, you wear those all the time? Because these are like my everyday shoes now, which I actually got in Vietnam like 2 months ago. I hate having shoes where I have to tie them every time I put them on. Like most of my shoes that I've had, I just like slip on while they're tied, but these are too tight, so I have to like tie them and untie them every time. I don't know why that bothers me so much, because that's literally everybody has to tie their fucking shoes, Ryan. But like I love these shoes, like I love the look of them, but I get so annoyed when I think about having to tie them every day. Oh, this is a good question. Upcoming life plans / goals / things you're excited for. One thing that I've been loosely thinking about for the past week or so is creating a clothing line and like my own brand and starting this sort of like venture for like the long-term aspect of what I want to do. I've always wanted to have a clothing brand like my whole life, but I never really had the resources to do that or any sort of like guidance, and it sounded really complicated. So many of you want this hat, especially on Instagram. Like I posted on Instagram and everyone was like, I want that hat. I posted on my story. I got like 500 replies of everyone saying that they want this hat. So I'm in the works of trying to get this brand created. Also, it's not going to be like a merch company. It's not going to be like a merch line. It's like my own thing that I'm doing. I don't really like the idea of creating a merch line. I more so just want my own brand and something that I can have in the long term and really grow with and build. That's something that really excites me. Would you ever end up living in Korea or even consider it? If so, would you start learning Korean? So I was actually thinking about this today because Korea has a visa where you can stay in Korea for 6 months as an American on like a digital nomad type of visa. I think I definitely like living in Japan more than Korea. I think I would definitely have a good time if I did live in Korea for a little bit, but I don't think that's in the cards anytime soon. I definitely don't have like a piqued interest in living there at the moment, and I didn't visit there and was like, oh my god, I have to live here, because it's like I already live in Japan. So how have you adjusted to influencer life? It feels weird calling myself an influencer, but I get like more and more used to that over time. There's really good days and there's really, really bad days, and I think that every influencer needs a fucking therapist, because like the amount of dopamine that you're given for like a really viral moment, and I've had so many viral moments just in the past like 9 months, literally had moments that have been like worldwide news, Zara Larson, and that was like really overwhelming. And then you'll have like weeks where like everything is really low and you feel like you're a fucking loser and like you're never gonna amount to anything and this isn't sustainable, yada yada yada. It can definitely be very mentally challenging sometimes, but to me it's very worth it in the end. Like I get to call this my job. I have a very privileged life at the moment that I did not have a year ago, which is crazy whenever I think about it. Sometimes it just gets really overwhelming when you get caught up in like the business side of things, and like when you blow up and like you do social media, people are constantly telling you like, oh, you need to make like merch, you need to do a clothing line, you need to work on your Instagram, you need to promote this, that, and the third, and like it's a lot. It's a lot that you have to do, and you have to like really spread yourself thin across a lot of areas in order to get to a point where you're okay for a while, especially if you don't have the help that you need. Like for me, honestly, I feel like I need fucking 5 employees, but like I cannot afford to hire like 5 people. That's not happening. To sum up, there's just definitely days where I get really, really caught up in like numbers. Like I'm definitely a numbers person, and I get caught up in the business side of things, and I'm like, fuck, like everything is like not where I want it to be, and I wish that I was like in a better place right now. A lot of the time I fail to wake up and smell the roses, because I have come like so far for how long I've been doing this, and I feel very lucky to be in that position. This shit just messes with your head. How's Dote? We love him. Dote is good. Noelle, my friend who's like staying at my apartment and watching him, has been having a really good time with him, and she's sending me a bunch of videos, and I miss him so much. Like literally every day I think about how much I miss him, and I'm really sad that I'm not going to see him for a while. What was your favorite spot when you came to Canada? I went to like multiple different cities, and I really, really liked Banff, which I didn't even really know much about before I went there, but I ended up going to Banff, and it literally probably one of the most beautiful places I've seen in my life. That was just a really fun experience. If you ever get to go to Banff, I recommend it. I feel like a lot of people know this, but someone said, what is your traveling/living situation? So if you don't know, I'm traveling kind of everywhere right now. I'm making it like a surprise every time I go to a new place, but I'm still like living in Japan. Like I have my apartment and everything is still there, but I'm just traveling right now, and then I'm going back in like December. How do you find motivation to study/work? I don't. There are definitely times where I have absolutely no motivation to do anything, but I try to stay concentrated on like the bigger picture and what I want to accomplish in like the long term, and that normally motivates me to keep going with everything that I do. Favorite anime? My favorite anime is Death Note, which I think is a basic answer. I've said this before. Death Note just always does it for me. I think I've watched it 4 or 5 times now. I've literally seen probably like 200 animes in their entirety. I definitely don't watch anime nearly as much as I used to. I feel like I never watch it anymore, honestly. Yeah, Death Note's definitely number 1. I have like the original Death Note merch t-shirt. I think I actually have it in my suitcase. No, I just remembered I decided to leave it in my apartment because I was like, Ryan, you don't need that, but I wanted to bring it so bad because I love Death Note so much. How do you find ways to deal with the loneliness of being abroad? I feel like I don't have any good tips with that because I've definitely been struggling with that more so in the last like 5 or 6 months or so. It's honestly been quite hard. I think what sucks the most about living abroad, or at least in Asia, is the time difference of everyone that's in the States. I will wake up and then like everyone that I talk to in the States is going to bed like a few hours after I wake up, or maybe even an hour after I wake up, so I barely get to talk to anyone, and then my entire day is just like me or talking to other people that I know in Japan. Then I wait until nighttime, and at nighttime those people in America will wake up, but then I only have like a few hours until I go to bed. So that makes things really lonely sometimes, and I'd say that's one of the biggest cons of living, at least in Asia, with that sort of time difference. And it definitely makes me want to like be closer to America sometimes. There's definitely pros and cons, but I'd say I really just try to make those like few hours that I have with the people that live in America and the people that I talk to in America, and even just talking to like you guys on like TikTok, I try to make the most out of those few hours every morning and night, which is not the most practical schedule, and that's what makes it hard, but I make it work. As you lived alone in Japan, did you ever get scared or in a bad situation? One time I got the cops called on me like right after I moved to Japan. That was an experience because it was literally like a week of me living in Japan, and I lived in my dorm, so I made this little like group of friends that literally only lasted like what, a month, maybe 3 weeks. We were outside and our dorm was in like a neighborhood, like nestled in a neighborhood, and we were talking, and in Japan you're not supposed to like talk in neighborhoods at night, and so the neighbors like called the cops on us, and the cops came and everyone had to give them their residence card. Like it's called Zaru Kado, which is your residence card, and everybody had to hand it to the police officers, and they documented everything and literally made it seem like we were like getting arrested, and then they were like, just go home, and we were like, oh, okay. You definitely have to be really careful in Japan about the police because they're very, very sensitive, especially to foreigners. I know that in Japan, a lot of foreigners will literally just randomly get stopped like in the train station or something, and the police officers will ask for like your residence card, but that's never happened to me. I know it definitely happens to people of color more often, but yeah, I haven't experienced that. Tips for starting YouTube. I'm debating when to start. I want to start, but unsure. I get really back and forth. Like sometimes I'm really invested in my TikTok because obviously my main platform is TikTok, and then sometimes I'm really invested in YouTube and I'm like, oh my god, I love doing YouTube way more, and it like kind of flips back and forth, and I get in phases where I'm like, oh, YouTube is so much work, like I don't want to focus on that right now. I mean, you definitely have to take into account that it takes a lot of work, but I would say literally just upload as much as you can. Like even if you think it's a shitty video, if you think it's bad, someone will still like it. I get imposter syndrome so often, and I will hate a video that I edited and I'm like, I did not like try hard enough for this video, and then I upload it and I get so many good comments, and you guys are like, oh my god, I love this video, Ryan. I'm like, oh, what? There's someone out there that would like your videos. What is your overarching goal for your social media career? I'm gonna sound so capitalist, but I want to be my own boss for like my whole life, and I want to like right now I'm trying to like focus on building a brand, which is definitely gonna take a lot of time. I want to have something that I have built and something that I can be really proud of, which I have built like my social media a lot. I think I've just always wanted to like put something out into the world that's like tangible and like see people using that like product that I put out or enjoying something that I do. The idea of that makes me really motivated to keep doing it and work really hard to make it happen. So I'm really hoping that in like a few years I can look back and like say that I created a brand for myself. What is your opinion on moving to LA after you graduate? It's definitely an opinion. I really don't know. Like, I have no idea. That's like a little bit down the line. I'm so up in the air with my life right now. There's so many factors that go into like my life that are like all across the world. I have to travel a lot. I have to go to LA a lot. I have to go to Japan a lot. So it's like really hard to say that I'm gonna live in like one place. Obviously, I definitely want to have a home base. I'm getting a bit like traveled out recently. I definitely have like this fantasy of like living in LA. I just don't know if that's gonna be anytime soon or like in 2 years or 3 years. I really don't know. I think I honestly would like to move there after I graduate, or say like after December comes. Like, I'm definitely going to Japan and going to my apartment in December, but there's a small portion of me that feels like I might really not want to go back to school, which is like scary for me to say because I don't want to like speak for the future. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. It's a really confusing topic for me and I don't know what's best, but in the end I just really hope that if I do move to LA, I can really adapt my work to that and like still have a job and still have a job in LA, but we'll see. You've done so many things, so what's now number one on your bucket list, or have you achieved it? This is gonna sound bad, but like I really do feel like I've achieved it. To be honest, growing up, I never thought that I would have a life like this or have any opportunities anywhere near this or be able to travel like this, but my dream, like when I was in high school, was literally to travel as much as I could and just go to like so many different countries. And now that I'm only 22, like I just turned 22 a few weeks ago, I'm like, whoa, I don't know what my number one on my bucket list is anymore. I feel like I've traveled almost everywhere that I've wanted to go at this point, which I feel so lucky to have done, but I did it so fast and at such a young age that looking forward, I'm like, damn, now it's like if I go anywhere, it's not for the first time. So yeah, that's kind of weird to like adjust to as someone who didn't think that they'd ever do that anytime soon. Life recently. That's literally just the question, is life recently. So I left Japan like 2 weeks ago. There's definitely still parts of this like trip of traveling around the world that I'm like really excited about. And there's definitely been times or days where I've just been like, I really just want to sit in my living room with my cat again. So that's been kind of sad on those days. There's also been days where I'm like, damn, this isn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be. So it's like hard for me to create content around that. While I've definitely had a lot of fun like going around and traveling and being in new places. I mean, I've only been in Korea and Vietnam so far. I've had a lot of fun doing that. It's been hard to kind of like feel stable and have like a routine and keep up with everything at the same time. Like even just with me trying to like create a clothing brand and stuff, it's like I need to receive like shipments and stuff, and it's like I literally can't do that when I'm traveling. Like I can't receive packages, obviously. So simple things are now a bit more complicated. That being said, I don't regret my decision to do this whatsoever. Oh, I've been wanting to address this. So a lot of people asked me if I was going to Australia, and I sadly am not going to Australia. I will say that I looked into going to Australia because that's definitely something that I want to do, but it doesn't seem like a place that I could really go by myself very easily, and I feel like you have to have a car in a lot of cities in Australia, which I don't really want to do. I have an international driver's license, but I just like don't want to go through getting a car and like dealing with all of that. I really don't know like what I would film in Australia. I kind of pushed away from that. I'm so sorry, my Australians. One of my best friends in Japan is from Sydney. I want to go so bad. I also have a friend from Melbourne and I want to go to Australia, but it just didn't work out. How to become an influencer. I wish I had the secret recipe for all of this. I never thought any of this would happen to me no matter how hard I tried, and it did. Like literally so sporadically and randomly. It's taken a lot of work, like a lot of work, and a lot of me like putting school on the back burner and really focusing on what I want for my future. So a lot of dedication is what I'll say is what it takes. Like literally in December of last year, I said my New Year's resolution was going to be to do social media like full time, and that happened literally within like the first month of 2023. I feel like I've said that so much, but it's just still so crazy to me that all that happened like so fast. I don't know. It's really weird. Oh my God, tell crazy subway stories from New York City. That made me think of an example. When I lived in New York, I was on the train one time and this dude, this is one of many stories that I have, but this dude came running on the train and he had his arm like this, like all bandaged up with like really like raggedy gauze. It was just covered in blood and just like dripping blood. Like there was blood all over the train, all over the seat, all over the ground. And he was probably like 20 feet away from me. Everyone just sat there and watched as he was literally like bleeding out, like trying not to pass out. And it was so like, I don't think I'll ever forget that. Like it was so concerning and the first time I've ever really seen anything like that. That's probably the craziest story I have from the subway. Are you an only child? No. And I feel like I never have the opportunity to tell you guys about this, but I have 3 older sisters and my whole life everyone's freaked freaked out whenever I say that, and I have no younger siblings, like it's just 3 older sisters, but there's a big age gap between 2 of them. One is 16 years older than me, one is 9 years older than me, and one is 3 years older than me. And I'm not close with the one that's 9 years older than me. Oh, not me flicking off the camera. I'm not close with the one that's 9 and 16 years older than me. I'm closer and grew up more with the one that's 3 years older than me, but we never really talk because our lives are just like so different, and I live abroad and whatnot. So yeah, your outfits are always so amazing. How do you style your clothes and what are your inspirations? Thank you. And I get really tired of my clothes very, very quickly because I will have like a set of say 5 outfits at a time, and that is literally all I will wear for like 3 months until I get new clothes, and then the cycle repeats. Probably the best tip I can give you, only buy things that you are absolutely in love with. Like I have a rule for myself whenever I go to a store or a thrift store. I will not buy something if I'm iffy about it. I will not buy something if I think that I like it. I have to absolutely love it for me to buy it. Like that's the only way I will, because that's when I know that I will get the most use out of something. I look and search very far and wide for things that fit me perfectly, because things that fit me are very, very hard to come across. Like we all know that I am tiny. I'm pretty tiny, so like it's really hard to find, especially pants. I'm really specific. I'm very, very specific about the shape of my clothes. I really like them to look a certain way and have a certain silhouette on my body. This is something I could talk about for like years. It just takes a lot of dedication and time to find those pieces that I'm like in love with. Recently when I went to Korea, I bought like 3 new pants, and I was so ecstatic because it takes me so long to find any pants, and so I feel like I'm constantly repeating outfits all the time, which I never want to do. I don't like repeating outfits, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Have you ever been to Texas? No. I think I had a layover there once, but I've never been there. If you weren't doing social media as a job, what might you want to do instead if you had to do something else? Literally nothing. Have you ever visited Europe? Yes, I've been to Paris, and I've had layovers. I had a layover in Finland and London. Other than that, I haven't been anywhere else in Europe before. What do you miss the most in your Japan apartment that's not your cat? Literally just my TV and my couch. If you watch my vlogs, you know that I just got a new TV for free. That was so nice, and I was so excited about it, only to fucking leave like 2 weeks later. I was so like upset about that. Yeah, I miss my TV, which is like so stupid, but I would play Fall Guys like every day on my TV, and now I can't do that. I only have my Switch. Okay, I've answered so many questions at this point, so I think I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you guys for sending me your questions. Every time I ask a question on my Instagram story, I get so many replies, and it makes me feel so good because I feel like you guys are so engaged with what I do, and that makes me so happy because I want you guys to be as involved as possible in everything that I do. So yeah, thanks for sending me the questions. I'm gonna go rot in my bed now again. I don't seem sick right now, but trust me, I have like a horrible headache as I speak, and I'm very achy, so I simply cannot go anywhere, nor do I want to get other people sick. So the next video you see from me will probably be in my next destination, which you will find out soon. Thanks for watching. Mwah. Love you. Bye.